Welcome to Master of Science with host Professor James McCanney. The good professor's career spans 50 years as a university teacher, scientist, and engineer. Each week, he will explore the rapidly changing world of science as many long-held theories are crumbling under the weight of new data. He will cover the fields of geology, archaeology, meteorology, oceanography, space science, astronomy, cosmology, biological evolution, virology, energy, mathematics, and more. So please welcome the host of Master of Science, James McCanney.
Good evening, everybody. Episode number 63. Tonight, a lot of interesting topics, and I'll be ending with a collage of photographs, very beautiful photographs of the heavens, heavenly objects, comets, planetary nebulae, galaxies, and other items, but discussing why they look the way they look. And of course, it's a problem with standard science because they have no idea. All of their theoretical structure is completely in disarray. And that's why I'm going to start with a little discourse. I saw this online and I thought this would be a good show topic. First of all, as many of you know, this is my television show, the Master of Science show, and this it airs on a number of platforms, including the YouTube platform, and then my Patreon channel platform, patreon.com/JMCCSCI. But also for 25 years, I've had a radio show. It's called the James McCanney Science Hour at the Crossroad. Airs on WWCR, that's Worldwide Christian Radio, out of Nashville, Tennessee. The largest radio station in the world. 4 giant 100,000-watt towers span the world, and I've been on the same time slot. That's Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time, for 25 years. And so anyway, because it's at that evening slot, in the winter it's dark, in the summer it's light out, and so that makes a difference for shortwave. So the announcement is that starting October 30th, and so my first show in November on WWCR will have a frequency change. And so the wintertime frequency is 5.935 megahertz. That's a switch over from the summertime frequency. And all of that information, different ways to listen, listed on my webpage, jmccsci.com. So starting October 30th, all the shows after that throughout the winter up until next March will be on the 5.935 megahertz frequency. Okay, and by the way, it's not a bad idea to get a shortwave radio, because if things go crazy, that might be the only way you get to listen to me. People depend on the internet. I remember there was internet was down a number of, maybe a month or two ago, and people were like lost. People were like in total disarray because they didn't have their internet. I just saw an ad. This is very interesting. It's a train that has the longest route in the world. It crosses like the Gobi Desert or something, but it's completely without internet. And they make this announcement so people don't get on the train thinking they're going to have internet connection for this long train ride. I thought that was interesting because people are so married to their internet. It's just like it's like breathing air. It's something you need on a minute-to-minute basis. Anyway, here's the question, and it's really kind of a stark one. There has been generally considered in the physics world, and so this is all the way from fundamental subatomic physics, basic quantum mechanics, fundamental physics, and going up all the way to cosmology, that it has stagnated. So we've had these periods like in the 1800s with electromagnetism and Tesla and Helmholtz and all the other great discoveries. Of course, we had the mathematical discoveries of the late 1800s, Riemann and tremendous progress in mathematics, the organization of calculus, and the introduction in the early 1900s of tensor analysis, etc. But then you had the quantum physics and the subatomic structure of physics, and that continued up into the early 1970s. And all of a sudden, it's just like went blank. And regarding cosmology, let's go back to when Edwin Hubble first took a decent-sized telescope and put a spectrometer on it and looked at the heavens, realized that these things out there were not stars, not fuzzy stars, but galaxies, and that there were a lot of them, and now the count is trillions of galaxies with the James Webb Telescope. And no edge to the universe, by the way. As far as they can see, there's the same thing we have here. So the universe is much farther out than we can see or detect with equipment, with modern equipment. But the theoretical, the understanding, the formulation of understanding of all of this universe, down to the subatomic level, up to the macro level, to the cosmological level, there has been an absolute stagnation in progress. And the question is, first of all, is that true? And then second of all, why? What's the deal? And my work has just been shunned. Let's put it that way. It's just not only shunned, it's been completely obfuscated. It's been kept, held down. And you can try this. Try and put my name on some YouTube channel and say, why don't you listen to Professor McCanny? It will be gone tomorrow. But what's interesting, if you do that, your computer will still show your comment being there. But if you go to a different computer, a different, like a telephone, some different device, it won't be there. I've been shadow banned from all of these platforms for literally forever, since the beginning. And what I have is dozens and dozens of major discoveries. Things like the fusion of the sun is not in the core, it's in the atmosphere, and when you have that, it explains the corona and the fact that the sun is acting like a superatom with a proton-enhanced shell and then the electron cloud around it, and then the cause of the solar wind. And there's an excess current of protons in the solar wind, and that gives us the discharge, the plasma discharge comet model. All the planets are discharging this, and that's what drives our weather. So all my weather work, anyway, I won't go on. But this has been suppressed since, and this, remember, I developed when I was at Cornell in 1979 to 81, the golden years, what I call the Cornell years. 99% of this was all developed completely. I had this done and down in those years, and it's been completely obfuscated by mainstream science. And they have literally stagnated. I taught astronomy at the university level in about 90, in the early 1990s. And the astronomy textbooks have not changed, not an iota, nothing new. So anyway, I'm going to read this quickly, this stagnation question, and then I'm going to go through some of the pat answers. And of course, you know what my response is. It's because the government funding, I think, is one of the biggest things. People are so afraid to lose their funding that if they say anything out of line, or they step out of line, or they say something different, they'll lose their funding, and they're all worried about their funding, government funding. The worst thing that ever happened to science is government funding. Okay, so it says, physics is not considered to have stagnated by everyone, but the field is facing challenges due to difficulties in testing fundamental theories fundamental theories, there you go, a reliance on costly experiments, and a lack of major breakthroughs in theoretical physics since the standard model of particle physics was completed in the 1970s. Okay, these issues are compounded by the perceived over-reliance on specific mathematical frameworks, very true, without experimental guidance. The challenges of testing untestable theories like string theory or multi-universe and the increasing cost and complexity of experiments needed to push the boundaries of knowledge. Let me scroll down here. So anyway, here are some of the challenges they state in experimental and theoretical physics. Difficulty in testing theories. Many modern theories are difficult to test experimentally or not at all. They're just, maybe we have 5 parallel universes. How do you test that? Well, I mean, if you want to sit in your office and twiddle your thumbs and spin webs like that, well, great. But why get paid for it and you can't test it? There's no way to test for this. So it's not science, it's garbage. And making it challenging to verify or refute them, ample examples include string theory, multi-universe, which lack testable predictions. And even testing a prediction, like a great example is the microwave background radiation from the Big Bang. It was a prediction. They discovered it. They actually built satellites and microwave detectable instruments on ground-based, and they detected it, and then all of a sudden it was like, the greatest thing since sliced bread, Nobel Prizes were given. And it turns out what I discovered is that it's due to a cloud of material that surrounds our solar system. It has nothing to do with the Big Bang. So they discovered something, they misinterpreted the data. Simple, plain and simple. And Nobel Prizes were given for something that's patently false. And so that's one of the difficulties they're stating with theoretical physics is it's too pie in the sky. Okay, so next point they say is expensive and large-scale experiments. Yeah, because the cosmological things you cannot get in your laboratory. Take a look at fusion. How many decades, who knows how many billions and billions of dollars have been spent on nuclear fusion research, and they're always right around the corner. They're always just if they build this next machine, they're going to certainly break even. In other words, you take all the energy from that giant machine and you have enough energy, you create enough energy to run it, and that's not even the way they measure it. It's just the energy in the combustion chamber, in the magnetic chamber. That's the only thing they count. They don't count the cost of construction of the facility or the energy taken to drive the accelerators or anything. Only the energy in the actual burning unit, if you want to call it that. It's absolutely absurd. The idea that fusion is going to save the world. The biggest problem with fusion or thorium or any of the other so-called nuclear solutions, pie-in-the-sky nuclear solutions, is that they're heat engines. And a heat engine is, we already have coal, burn coal. And you say, it's pollution, CO2. No. We need lots more CO2 in the atmosphere, a lot more. Then plants will flourish, and the whole planet will flourish. The idea that we have to get rid of CO2 is the biggest myth ever created by science. Follow the science. No, don't follow the science. Nothing that comes out of modern science has any value at all. Very simple. Okay, and so large-scale experiments. You just can't get cosmological things in a laboratory. So they're always looking for tertiary events or readings or things like that. And it's just, it's Tesla stated it best. He said, it's gone off in the mathematical never land, and it's really has no value. Okay, lack of experimental guidance. Some argue that theoretical physics has become detached from experimental data. That's true, leading to mathematical guessing rather than being guided by observation. That's what Tesla said, is, just in different words. Need for new experimental approaches because new unexpected phenomena are not being discovered at a sufficient rate, and the current theories are known to be incomplete. They don't include gravity. There are fewer experimental avenues to test them. And that's what, back in the 50s, that's what Einstein was saying. He said he disagreed with general relativity because it did not include the total field. In other words, it only included gravity. How can you talk about cosmological processes if you don't include electromagnetism? And that's what he was saying. He was working on unification of the field. And so you could look at it two ways. Electromagnetism does not include gravity, and gravity doesn't include electromagnetism. Now, there's a false belief that gravity is somehow related to electromagnetism, and it's simply not true because gravity works through shielding. You can put up all the shielding you want. You can put a planet between us and some other object, and gravity works through that, whatever it is. So gravity is very different, whereas electromagnetism, you can shield it. You can contain it. You can keep it from emanating out from there. But gravity is not like that. There's no way to stop gravity from working. Okay, so the next thing they say, stalled progress in fundamental questions. Now, here's a good point. There has been little progress on fundamental problems like quantizing gravity, unifying quantum mechanics and general relativity, and understanding dark matter and dark energy. And those are the two biggest pigs with lipstick I've ever imagined. They keep looking for this dark matter to justify the Big Bang, which the Big Bang is dead. Hey, the James Webb Telescope can see beyond 13 billion years, way beyond that, and we're seeing fully developed galaxies, and they're running around trying to figure out how that could possibly be. No, science today is dead, and the biggest detriment to science is government funding. Very simple. And when I was at Cornell, I realized all of these things, that the Big Bang was not true, that the comets were not dirty snowballs, that there was electricity in outer space, but it was very subtle. And you have to understand these subtleties because if you look at most things, they work gravitationally. There's a lot of hullabaloo right now about this Comet 3I Atlas, and that it's doing some non-gravitational things. Yeah, that's right. It's slowing down due to the tail drag. And I talk about that in my work. And this also shows a sunward spike, and they're going, oh, it's an anti-tail. It points towards the sun. It violates all the laws of physics. No, if you think a comet is a dirty snowball, then you're an idiot, and your physics is wrong, and yeah, what comets are doing violates your stupid laws. Yeah, because you're idiots. The idea that comets are dirty snowballs was decimated many, many times in the last 20, 30 years, 50 years. But they're still looking for dark matter, dark energy. And the only reason they need it is because their Big Bang theories don't work without it. So they can't even define what dark matter and dark energy is. How do you? Oh, we've discovered it. No, they don't even know what it is. So anyway, the whole issue is that there has been progress, but it has not been within the ranks of peer-reviewed journal physics. They're in la la land. They're just they're sitting on their laurels, sitting on the Holy Grail, and it's not working. So anyway, excuse me, I gotta get my notes in order here. Okay, next I want to talk about a hurricane that hit Alaska. Hurricanes in Alaska. I thought hurricanes formed in warm water. Isn't that interesting? So here is a Category 4 hurricane, and of course they call it a typhoon. Well, wait a minute, boys and girls. Typhoons are in the South Pacific going into Asia. That's the same phenomena as a hurricane. They just call them a typhoon, but they're interestingly calling this storm in Alaska a typhoon. Well, no, a typhoon, a hurricane, it's all the same animals. It's a cyclonic storm, but in the frigid waters of October off of Alaska, how do you have a hurricane form? Category 4 hurricane. And the reason is hurricanes do not form because of warm water. And I've given examples. The best example is the perfect storm. 3 hurricanes formed. One came across the border states going easterly, and that was the Great October Blizzard of 1991. I happened to be in that. 31 inches of snow one day, and then it was nice one day, and then there was another 31 inches of snow about 24 hours later it hit as the eye passed over these areas. 60-some inches of snow, and the upper states are prepared for snow. They have big trucks, they have big sand trucks that can get through anything, but this actually stopped them. It was a long time till they could actually dig out and become mobile again. And then the second hurricane developed and came through the southern states and killed a lot of people in Appalachia. It brought an early winter storm that people were not prepared for, and people got caught outside, got caught in their cars, and it was a major disaster. But that was the second of the 3 storms. And then the third storm came from tropical sources and came up the east coast of the United States. But these 3 hurricanes formed one hurricane. They joined in what was known as the perfect storm. They even made a movie out of it, I think. It was called The Perfect Storm. And there were tales of fishing boats out in that storm that just never came back. So this is the biggest hurricane, most powerful hurricane in history that we have any history of, in the North Atlantic in early November with icy cold waters. And 2 of those hurricanes never saw warm weather. So this, you have to understand that science and meteorology and the understanding of weather it's just all so blatantly bad, just unbelievable. I just shudder when I think of this. But anyway, a couple of photographs here of Jonathan. No, this is. Well, let's see. What did they have? The name? I don't even know if they gave it a name. Typhoon Halon, Halon. And the people there just destroyed those areas, but the people were begging for assistance because everything there was destroyed. In Alaska, most of the population lives on the coast, and they have fishing industries, things like that. Oh, this is a funny one. Somebody sent this in. The NASA and the European Space Agency, this is the headline, are heading for the most feared asteroid of the decade. And so what's funny, though, is they're not going to do anything. They got a spaceship and they're going to fly. They're going to fly out there. Each one of them, they're going to build these spaceships, but they're not doing anything. I mean, are these people lame or what? You're supposed to go out there and do something about it. They have no solution. They're going to build a spaceship and they're going to go out there. It's like some kind of Chinese fire drill. Remember the old expression in the movies, Chinese fire drill. They'd all run around in circles and nothing would get done. The fire would not get put out. So there you go, NASA and ESA heading for the most feared asteroid. And it's not going to hit Earth, but they're going to go out there, and they're really going to go out there and not do anything. I have a dent in my forehead from when I go like this so much. When I read this stuff, I see this stuff. Um, okay. Now here's a story about a comet. They're claiming that this is the biggest Oort cloud comet in history ever detected, and a billion miles from the sun. So that would be about five Earth distances to the sun, which is called an astronomical unit. It would be about uh, so anyway, about five times that is where this comet became very active. And they've seen comets way out there beyond Pluto that become active, and they can't explain it because there's not enough light out there to read a magazine, let alone melt ice or whatever. And that should tell you right there that the dirty snowball comet model could not be true. I was just looking at a poster I had, and it was one of the American Geophysical Union meetings. I put on there that the moons of Jupiter, three of them are icy, have icy surfaces. And if comets were dirty snowballs, then those should be the biggest comets. They should be orbiting Jupiter and be giant comets. But they're in the solar wind. They have all this ice on them, and nothing's happening. So wait, they're within the region where comets become active. And in fact, originally, that's where comets would become most active until they started getting better equipment and finding these comets that were active way, way out there, beyond Saturn, beyond Jupiter, beyond Pluto. And but anyway, now they're saying they've discovered the biggest one ever discovered, and it's the most distant. And so, and also this myth about the Oort cloud, I've talked about that before. That's one of the strangest things. Now, it was made sense at the time, probably in the 1800s. They started noticing that the comet orbits concentrated the greatest distance from the sun, concentrated in a region that was way out there, tens of billions of miles from the sun. And so they said, oh, most of these must be coming from this region. And that gave birth to the concept of the Oort cloud, OORT. And so that made sense at the time. But the problem is, there again, you have a fundamental concept that is in astrophysics, astronomy, space science, of some region where all these icy comets exist, but you can't prove it. There's no proof, and you could never, ever prove it with the experiment because these objects are so small, they're so far away from the sun, there's no light out there to illuminate them, so you could even see them. Even if you could get a telescope out near in that region, you still would not be able to detect these objects because they're cold. They're like, Kelvin zero temperature. So they're not giving off any heat, any infrared. They're not being heated by the sun. There's no way to detect them. Even if you could send a giant telescope out there in that region, you still couldn't detect them. So the Oort cloud is a concept that was necessary, kind of like dark matter, dark energy. It was necessary for the concept of dirty snowball comet model. But now we know that comets are not dirty snowballs, but they keep talking about the Oort cloud, which is a necessary item for the snowball comet model. So at any rate, then this is rather comical too. NASA is talking about they're very excited about Planet Y. They're dancing around this using Planet X. Now, back in the day, in the 90s or the 2000s, this whole era of Planet X, remember, NASA never said a thing. They had all these outreach people out there defending them. Oh, NASA, there could never be Planet X. That's a bunch of crazy people running around. actually turned out to be a big psyops of the CIA. The whole Planet X hoax thing, and my books, it turns out that the Planet X was real. It was discovered by Robert Harrington, and it turned out to be the nucleus of Hale-Bopp. So it was up in the sky the whole time, becoming a planet, and everybody could see it in the daylight sky. But oh no, don't look at that comet. That's just a little snowball up there. And then you have crazy lady talks to aliens. We're all going to die on May 15th, 2003. Anyway, the NASA now is saying it's looking for planet Y. So they bounced around from planet, they don't want to say planet X. But they want credit for finding a planet that is pulling on the orbits of Neptune and Uranus. They're still looking for this one. Harrington already found it. So it just shows the disarray in standard astronomy. But like I say, they're dancing around this don't say planet X, because that would mean everybody would point the finger and say, see, we told you so. But what a crazy era. What a crazy era, the 90s and the 2000s, with the ending in the Mayan calendar. We're all going to die on, December 31st, 2012 or something. Oh, my goodness. All PSYOPs, disinformations, and now they're doing it again with Comet 3I Atlas. Last night, Jeff Rentz called me up and he wanted me to be on and talk about the immense amount of disinformation coming out of. It's being supported by NASA, but NASA's name is being used, but NASA is not involved in presenting information. But there were hundreds, within the last couple of days, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of web pages that have been just sprung out of nowhere, and they're AI generated. They got Michio Kaku, AI generated, moving his mouth, and the text that the AI voice is reading doesn't correspond with his mouth moving. They've got Brian Cox, this astrophysicist guy from England, who's a very standard, everything standard he's in favor of. It has his pat explanations, but they're AI dubbing him. They're duplicating him with AI and saying all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know if him or Michio Kaku know that they're being used like this, but in the whole point is this Comet 3I Atlas is getting a lot of airtime, disproportionate to what's really going on. And then this guy Avi Loeb, Harvard University professor, that claims that Comet 3I Atlas is a spaceship and the aliens, and all of a sudden it stopped in its orbit. I mean, just absolute insanity going on. So let me see. Just a quick note here. There's in the news, there's something called the South American Anomaly. And this is a region of the Earth's magnetic field that has kind of a bowl shaped, it has kind of a dip in it in strength. And so this is something they monitor from satellites. And so they're trying to look for causes for this change in that region of the magnetic field. But very clearly this is related to outside activity. The Earth's magnetic field, most of it is made up because of the plasma environment of outer space. Okay, I just want to make a quick comment. Out of all of the craziness surrounding Comet 3I Atlas, the craziest one, which has got to be out on the edge of the orbit, the farthest orbit from Earth, is a claim that a guy was talking to God, and that God told him that it would be a spaceship that would hover over the Vatican. Then everybody would see it flying across the Atlantic Ocean, which I don't know many people living in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that would see this, but he's saying everybody would see it. And it would fly down and hover over someplace in a Mayan temple something, and then go down and visit with the president of Argentina. And I'm like, okay. And they said, would it be 2 spaceships? No, it'd be 1. Something like this. But anyway, here's the guy that is claiming this. And this video began with Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor that's saying it's alien technology. But they're just claiming, they know God told them that this is alien technology, this comet. Actually, and I've done a number of shows on 3i Atlas showing how it's doing exactly what a high-speed comet should do. It has a sunward spike, it has a green halo, it's losing its a fairly large nucleus, and so it's able to manage and maintain the material coming in from the tail area, which gives it tail drag, which makes it slow down, which is being observed. And so it's a normal comet. That's all you can say. But these people are telling you, no, it's definitely, they're saying it's alien technology. So anyway, this is who do you believe? Anyway, but the whole point is that, and we made this clear on Rent's show last night, that there's an agenda going on here. This is not Johnny sitting in Grandma's basement putting out hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, I would say literally thousands of new YouTube channels with, some of them have 500 subscribers, some of them have 50,000. And out of nowhere, they're just like, who are these people? They don't recognize, and a lot of it is AI. They have like I said, the AI Mishikaku and Brian Cox, and definitely people creating videos with their likeness. I doubt if Mishikaku and this Brian Cox guy know that they're actually using their name and image and likeness to create these videos. But enough said about that. I'm waiting for Comet 3i Atlas to arrive at Jupiter. It's planned to be early March. It might be a little bit later because the comet is slowing down. But I think it's going to be a very interesting. I think the comet is going to turn into a sulfur dioxide comet, as did Schumacher-Levy 9, the 21 pieces of Comet Schumacher-Levy 9 as they came into Jupiter, changed into sulfur dioxide comets. And that's because comets derive the material from the local environment. This all makes sense. Okay. Anyway, now I'm going to, let's see. I was going to mention I was talking about the South American Anomaly, and they are trying to imagine that this is somehow due to changes in the electrical currents in the core of the Earth. And no, these are related to plasma effects up in the upper ionosphere and out farther. So these are plasma effects not well understood, but plasma effects in in my weather book I talk about the 5-layer magnetic field. That we have Earth's magnetic field that's locked into iron and nickel up in the mantle, and that is a permanent magnetic field, and that's what, if you were walking around with a compass, a Boy Scout compass type of compass, not the one on your phone, because that's not a magnetic compass, that's a GPS compass, and that would read the magnetic field that's in the surface of the Earth, because you're right there. But on that same magnet, if you're getting a solar storm, which is affecting the upper ionospheric plasma, then you're going to see that registered on the handheld compass. And out in outer space, there's 5 layers to this. I'm not going to go into that now. You can read that in my books. But there's a 5-layer magnetic field surrounding Earth. Okay. Let me see. Oops. Go back up here. I was in the wrong section. Now I'm going to start with tonight's main science topic. A lot of pretty pictures, and let me get these pulled up here. Okay, the first one is a planetary nebula, and these are said to be the explosions of nova. And no, they're not at all. This is, if you took a look at our star, the sun, from a distance, this is what you would see. And you see the dot in the center there is the main star. You see other dots, but the one that's right in the center in the very middle is the star that's related to this planetary nebula. And our solar system would be somewhere very close to that dot in the center if we were looking at our own. But now what you see here is the solar wind pressure holding back this dust and gas cloud, and this is ionized. So you have the negatively charged sun in the center, and then this nebular ion cloud of dust, gases, and material that's surrounding the star. And in my work, I call it the donut nebula. So you can see dozens of these around other stars. All of the neighboring stars have these. And that is what they're looking at when they point the microwave telescopes looking up to the sky, and they see this 3-degree microwave background radiation that they attribute to the Big Bang. This is what they're seeing. They're seeing this. And a good way to test it is this changes. It changes very slowly because it's very far from the sun, but anyway, it changes on a continual basis. So over a 10 or 20 or 30-year period, you're going to see this morphing and changing shapes. And then in that cloud, that's what we would call the Kuiper belt. That's where comets are forming planets, and that's why all of those planets are out there in the Kuiper belt. And of course, NASA does not understand this. They think that the Kuiper belt, well, they just don't know. Just magically, we went from 9 planets to 9,000 overnight, and they can't tell you why. Well, I'm telling you why. Because they're developing in this cloud of dust and gas material, discharging the solar capacitor, and that's dragging in material and forming these planets. It's not gravity. Gravity is involved because once the material is drawn into the region of the nucleus by electrical forces, then the object has enough gravitational force to hold that material, and therefore it grows. And also its orbit is changing on a very, very slow basis. But anyway, that's planetary nebula. And there are, I'm going to show a bunch of these, but there are thousands of these near us. And here's one called the Helix Nebula. And you can see it's in a different wavelength, but you can see the layering, and it's a complex structure. It's a complex structure in terms of the plasma physics. But basically, it's the nebular ion cloud. And you can see, if you look out in the outer regions, you can see the planets and then the comet tails associated with them. Just take a look at that. So you have the star right in the center, and then you have the regions of dust and gas, and it's kind of like differentiated, kind of like a centrifuge, whereas a centrifuge is a gravitational, or what you do is you take like a test tube, and you might take blood from your, for a doctor's appointment, you take a blood sample and you spin it in a centrifuge, and it separates out, because some things are denser than others, it separates out the various components in the blood. And a very similar thing is happening here with the solar wind, where the solar wind blows out, and the lighter objects, the lighter species, you might say, then get pushed out farther. And so it differentiates, and so that's why some planets that are forming in certain regions have different composition than others. And that's another thing that scientists can't explain. Earth has a central core, and that was the original planetary seed. And I find it interesting, there's some people coming out now, because my work was totally ostracized. Comets cannot become planets. That's ridiculous. There's a group of people now that are coming out and saying the 3I Atlas, a comet, is the seed of a planet. Oh, as long as they say it, it's okay. If I say it, it's crazy. It's not even worth commenting on. Okay, so anyway, here's another view, another wavelength view of planetary nebula. Okay, so now here's another one, and you can see the inner region. There's the red inner region surrounding the star, and there again, that's where our solar system would be, out to probably around Pluto. And then there's this kind of gap, and this forms over time. This is not an overnight operation. This is not due to a nova, and that's what standard science says. Oh, this envelope blew off the star. No, not at all. This is held back by solar wind pressure, the fusion, the proton wind that comes out of the central star. And you can see, take a look once again out in the region. It's all striated. You see it's all going out radially, and that's indicating that the solar wind is forming, the solar wind is forming a capacitor, and you can see these point sources out in the nebula, and you can see the tail behind them. You can see the comet tail, hundreds and hundreds of them. So these are literally planets forming in the outer region of this stellar system. Okay, here's one that is a bit more chaotic. And, some of these may be two exploding stars because stars do explode and they have this expanding envelope that reaches out, and in this form is a lot more chaotic. But still, it's this cycle of the universe of fusion-based objects where they, luckily our sun is very stable. But if we had a big hiccup in our sun, a big explosion of some kind, we'd be in a big heap of trouble. Let's put it that way. Okay, once again, this is a different view of the Helix Nebula. I believe this is the Helix Nebula again. And you can see, once again, look in these farther outer regions and look it up at the top. You find these planets developing. Do you see all the rays going out like this in the radial direction? Those are comet tails. At the front edge of each one of those is a planet that's developing. And so you have these hundreds, thousands of planets that are developing. Go to the next slide. Oh, here's one. Now, this is interesting. I'm going to show you a laboratory device in a minute. Look at this. Now, you see the electrical filaments in this. What's interesting, it looks like an eye. It looks like the human eye. But take a look at the electrical filaments reaching out into the plasma region. And I'll show you, like I say, a laboratory device that looks exactly like this. Now, how can people deny that there's electricity in the universe? How does gravity form this particular structure? Well, it doesn't. There's gravity of objects trapped in a gravitational field would be in an orbit, not radially outwards like this. This is definitely 100% electrical effects. And out to the region, imagine there are intelligent beings on these star systems. I mean, you can only imagine that there's going to be planets like Earth, and somehow, they'll be populated by intelligent beings. But look at that. Once again, look at that, and you can see, once again, the comets that are forming where they're discharging this capacitor and forming comets. Here's a whole list of different types of planetary nebula. And you can see there's just if you can, stop the video and take a look at all of these. Just one of my favorites is called the Eskimo Nebula. It's the fourth one from on the top. If you go to the top left corner and count 1, 2, 3, 4 over, the Eskimo Nebula is a perfect example of the exactly what I'm talking about. You have the central star, you have the layered regions around there, and then you can clearly see the planetary objects with the comet tail behind them forming planets. I mean, I'm not sure what else people need to see, but very proof positive that, okay, now here's a galaxy. And notice the symmetry. Notice the symmetry. If you pick a spot, say up on the upper arm there, pick a spot, which would be a bright spot. Now go across the galaxy on the far side, the equidistant from the center of the galaxy, and you will see the exact same pattern of star densities. So there's tremendous symmetry in the galactic structure. And how does that happen? Well, once again, standard astronomy theory says that this was due to some gravitational perturbation of something passing by long time ago. Well, every galaxy would need that special something to come by at just the right time to form the arm system. So it's statistically impossible explanation. And once again, that's what I was talking about earlier, the lack of progress in physics. One of the fundamental properties of galaxies is the tremendous symmetry. If some of them, if you look on edge, the plate of the galaxy is warped. It's bent. It's twisted, but it's the same twist on this side of the galaxy as it is on this side of the galaxy, which is very interesting. Okay, here's a comet. Now I want you to see, you can see typically what you see is a comet, but look around the head, this glow. It's kind of like a multiple layer glowing around the comet nucleus. Of course, the nucleus is up in the bright spot at the lower left-hand corner. But look off to the side a little bit. You'll see it better. Look not directly at the comet nucleus, but look off to the side a little bit, and you'll see this green. It's not even a halo. It's like you could call it a halo. And that is the hydrogen. That's the Debye shielding of the comet nucleus charged area. And it's illuminating. It's like a neon light bulb. It's just hydrogen, but very interesting. Oh, okay. Now here's another one. I love this picture. See the star in the middle, and you see the filament. And this is not gravitational, boys and girls. You can see this is a radial. The symmetry is held here. The structure is held by the solar wind that is coming out from the central star. But look at the electrical nature and how it's striated, and go into the bands out here on the outer region and pick a spot and then see the comet tail that is used, that is forming planets. Basically, it's like a bakery of planets, and that's why we have thousands. I get a kick out of NASA. They have these automated searches for new planets, etc., and they're finding hundreds of them every day in a place where they thought only there could be nothing, that is just a barren area. And so there's no way for gravitational objects to form out there. The forces are too weak. The region is too big. there's no way for these things to conglomerate and build up, whereas with electrical forces, that's a whole different story. But the thing you have to remember is that electrical forces would dominate in this situation, but in the overall working of the solar system, gravity is the one that is dominant, and that's because the electrical forces only work on the very smallest particles, something I discovered in my work. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. Doesn't this look like some of the pictures we've been looking at? This is a laboratory device, and it's basically a Tesla coil in a vacuum tube. There's a little bit of gas in there to illuminate, but it's like these snake-like protrusions of electricity that you can see it's connecting to the outer ball here. But does this look like some of the photographs we've been looking at here? Well, of course. So how can astronomers say there's no electricity in outer space? That's just beyond absurd. Okay, well, I just want to wrap this up. Remind you that right now I have a sale on my water filter products, jmccwaterfilters.com, and the books, etc., are on my webpage, the jmccsci.com webpage, and go to my Patreon channel, patreon.com/jmccsci. So these are just different ways you can support my work, and I appreciate the Patreon channel. You sometimes get some extra information over there, but the whole point of the way I present this material, it's available for free, and hopefully there's enough people out there who would value this enough to offer, $5 a month, 10 or 15 or 20 or 50, whatever you can afford, on the Patreon channel. Or if you're on the YouTube channel, do the subscriptions and likes and those type of things. That all of that helps out. So we'll talk to you next week.
This has been Master of Science with host James McCanny. Join us each week as James will delve into historical figures such as Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and the great mathematicians as we explore the history of man, Earth, and our universe as you've never seen it before. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern.